All right, going live. I got some logistics to set up here for a second. So I know it will take a minute for all this to kick in. Let me get adding a thumbnail to the actual live that I'm doing on YouTube real quick. Give me a second while we get all this rolling. While they're in there, if you are in here already, you can start dropping any questions or anything in the chat, and I will hit that in a second. Let's check and make sure X is all good. I'm sending out the link to everybody in a second. You're piecing this together. All right, X is good to go. What's good? Welcome up, y'all. I'm gonna be kicking here in a second. We're gonna go through a bunch of workshops and shit. Right now, the first thing I'm rolling through is I'm just making sure all my setup is good and emailing my list and stuff just to get everybody rolling on here. So hang up for a bit. Drop any comments in the chat. I will get to any of that here shortly. All right, thumbnail is fucking rolling. All right, boom, that live is up. Welcome in, y'all. Let me see. All right, cool. People in the chat. Awesome. Appreciate y'all coming in. Favorite pre-made blank companies. Cotton Collective. I'm wearing a bunch of those. For the person asking. Yo, all right, welcome in, y'all. Please keep giving me a second. I gotta like send out a bunch of links to this and stuff as well. So it's all coming together. All right, here we go. Boom. All right, first live of the year. Edit. Boom, that's in there. All right, that's there. I'm on YouTube. Ooh, okay. Save. I'm about to send this email out and then we're going to kick in. Send right now. Confirm. Broadcast is being sent. Awesome. Now I'm going to hit the... What happens when you do all this? You do all this yourself. Usually I got like the team rolling on it, but this is the first time I'm doing this. Is like a casual. This isn't like a sales webinar or anything, just in case y'all were wondering. This is just me going live here in a sec. All right, and let me hit this link real quick. Boom. Link. Okay. All right, let's save that. All right, all the emails should be out. All this shit should be good to go. Perfect. All right, appreciate y'all patience as we get to this. I'll open up the chat, and then we're getting some more people in here. Boom. What's good with y'all? Welcome to the new year. I'm pulling open all the different chats and shit just to make sure I see everything. All right, cool. It looks like it's counting. It's interesting. It's my first time doing this on Riverside instead of StreamYard. So, all right, cool. It looks like we got all the YouTube stuff pipes over well. It looks like it doesn't bring in any of the X stats or comments or anything. So, all right, well, so be it. If you're here on X, I will also drop the YouTube link down here below where I will be looking at all the comments and stuff. And we'll be dropping this here. Also on YouTube to comment. All right, so what we're going to do inside this one is I have a series of exercises. This is the same stuff I'm doing. If any of you guys are coming to the tour that we're doing the next 2 weeks, we're basically running a bunch of these live. And so I'm going to run through them here as well. So anyone who is not able to make that can see some of the exercises we're doing and do those exercises for whether it's your brand, your clients, if you just want to have the skill set, whatever it is. This is like the planning exercises that we do a ton of. So let me... but I'm going to kick that off in 5 because I told everyone this would start at 4. I'm just here early. So if y'all want to drop any questions in the chat in the meantime, what you're working on, awesome. I'll roll through those exercises once we hit 4. And then we can get back to Q&A and stuff after that. I'm curious what you're building. Carson, what's up, brother? Brandon, what's good? But yeah, I'm ready to get into it. Yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna be playing fucking Elden Ring and shit while we do this, but I'm trying to do the streaming more intentionally. Last year we would just be going live like on Friday and just making stuff up. This time I'm like promoting it and sending emails out and have a plan of what we're gonna cover. So hopefully it should be a little bit better. I signed up for tour. Haven't to secure a ticket. They should be letting everybody know like tomorrow. I know some of them. New York, I think everyone is good to go so far because there's 2 dates. I know Toronto and Miami have a lot happening. Um, all right, pop off this. But yeah, anyone in the meantime, well, I'll give it like 3, 4 more minutes. If you're working on anything, you're doing anything, you just have any general questions, hit it and let's go. Have you heard of the brand Just Happy to Be Here? I have not. I can look them up though. What should I know about them? A streetwear brand challenging mental health stigmas. Nah, I think it's a little out of my purview, brother. But hopefully they're doing great. Man, you know who I was looking through? What's her name? Casey Lewis does her like what Gen Alpha is buying or whatever, and they had there was some brand that was hilarious in there. I'll try and bring it up here real quick. It was called not Park, not Char. Oh, come on, where are we at? It was the not Comfort. Man, not Park, man. Oh yeah, Scuffers. You guys, I don't know if you guys have seen this. I'll pop my screen open real quick. Just a reminder, we'll get to workshop in here in like 5 minutes as I get people going. But this was a brand again from Casey Lewis's newsletter. So Casey does does God's work. It's probably the only proper way to describe it, where she goes and analyzes all the TikToks of like the hauls or whatever. This is one of the brands that came up like an awful lot. Was this one here, which I hadn't heard of. It was just it was hilarious. This was like a popular brand in that world right now. It just shows how disconnected I am from what the youth are buying. All right, cool. Let me stop sharing and get into some of these questions real quick as we get closer to fully kicking off. EU tour when London should be the next one. I got invited to speak at like the King's College or something, so I'm definitely going to do that. And then we were going to try and do a London tour date then. I want to do London, Copenhagen, and then one spot in Germany is hopefully the next leg of the EU tour. Building the NCAA with esports, starting with NYC. You'll like it. My next YouTube video, the one I just shot it today, is all about the creative direction of sports. So you'll see that coming out like this week. It's like about how basically how merchandise revitalizes sports orgs, and how why content makes such a big difference for athletes in sports, like the size of the prize, and then like clipping and infrastructure and underground sports and the transition of networks, and then like how brands should look at themselves more like sports teams do in the way that they do content if they're in fitness in particular. Tips for socials for creatives right now. We'll get into that while we're doing the Zoom. Working on my jewelry brand. Once into on content, there's little to no budget. Yep. One of the biggest things for smaller brands is I have a video on this. I'll pop some of the links up on here. Is like there's like a lot of like things that cost like a couple $100 that you can use for like a ton of content. Like one of them, I was just having this conversation with a team I work with the other day, is just like shelves, right? So you'll see those aesthetic videos. Why is that? I'm at a privacy policy. Just like aesthetic shelves, like aesthetic things like, well, basically you can use as the hook of your video is you like putting stuff down on top of these. So Firm has a bunch of them. They had the one that I was talking about, for the people I was working with was a little bit different though. One sec. It was shelf. It was one that it was like opaque, so you could kind of see inside and then open. I'll pop it down here, but like little stuff like that where you'd be like, cool, I can get 20 videos out of this. A couple $100 investment is like a lot. Yeah, these steel ones are great too. This look unique. You can like anchor a video around like you putting stuff into it. Like it is like a thing, and for ads too. All right, they officially have way too many shelves, but there is one on here this is Firm Living that has like an opaque that opens up that I've seen people actually hook their videos with this exact shelf, but lost it on here, so whatever. All right, 401. So basically, emails should also be going out to everyone who is on the list. Jumping in. Yeah, I see the numbers jumping up here. So if you're just coming, I'm going to give it a minute or two, and then we're going to get into some live workshopping. Drop questions in the chat. I will stop periodically and roll through a bunch of those. And then also, once I kind of go through the exercises that we're going to do, we'll just do general Q&A. So while we're waiting, giving it a couple minutes here. Apologies if I don't get every comment. There's a grip. I will hit what I can. My Instagram algo is messed up. There's literally no promotion from it. Any thoughts on how to push it? So I would really look at it, be like, is the content I'm pushing as good as the content that's getting pushed? And because it might be a content problem. And if it's not, I would just start a new account. All right. This will be recorded. I'm probably going to keep this on YouTube, despite the fact there's like an extended 12-minute intro of me like waiting for everything to get live. Man, it's fun. I'm using Riverside for the first time, and the Riverside chat function is actually not amazing. So I'm going to probably pull up the YouTube chat and just do that there as well. All right, cool. Yeah, YouTube chat is way better. All right, cool. Appreciate it. Hitting a couple more questions, then we'll kick into the actual workshop. So if you're here and you need to know what to expect, I'm going to run through some of the workshops that we're doing on tour. I'm on this tour next week and the week after. We're doing like brand workshopping live. And so we are going to go through a series of them, just so you can see a little bit about how I'm thinking about how content's like changed this year, how brand strategy and marketing has changed this year, and then how you can like think through that, whether you're doing it for for your brand, whether you're doing that for services. And let me bring up this. Okay, cool. It downloaded to a different place. Thought I had it, but I'll have this deck brought up here in the background as well. So we will roll through all of those, and then we'll go into like questions and workshopping on it too, and just chat in general. So let me clean up my desktop for a second, and pop into it. I'll take like 2 minutes of questions. They're still in the chat already. First, once I get this deck up, so I know I'm ready to go. Desktop, boom, awesome. All right, back to the chat here. Okay. I operate a blackout curtain D2C brand, which comes to mind for top of funnel content that only we can make. We can brainstorm on some stuff later. My brain's not working that fast right now. Content strategies for orgs celebrating major milestones. Oh, that's a great one. Basically, because like, you have your whole history to pull from. So you can both pull from people that were there to like recount memories of like outrageous stories. You can show how things have kind of changed over the years. Like if you have a carousel that breaks down like every 10 years, like 10 slides for like each of the 10 years and like what changed or not, and like those retrospectives, that could certainly work. Someone has favorite AI tool for presentation generation. I use Pitch when I do that. What advice would you give for doing a collab with larger brands? Got this skate tool I made. I want to have a larger brand, wanting to collab, and wondering what to expect or even ask for. All right, so a little bit on collab structure there, and I think I'll probably be the last one here from Nick before I kick into it. Is it really depends like what the collab looks like. So if they're collaborating on product, like whatever brand is usually like paying for the product tends to have like a bigger end of it. Like if you are a smaller brand and you're collabing with them and you're doing like an addition, like if they're paying for it, then you're probably gonna get like a royalty on the collab, like a 10 or 15% type thing, or maybe a fee to make some content like along with that. It's usually gonna be like a smaller deal versus if it's two equal sized brands like sharing costs and collabing, it's much more like a split. And sometimes it may just be they just end up paying you like a fee to go work on something for them. So worth kind of noting, interesting to be prepared for that. Okay, cool. I'm gonna go hit this. I'm gonna kick into presentation here, and then we will get back to questions for a minute. So let me pop into Riverside. Damn, there are a lot of comments on here. Appreciate y'all joining, for everyone who is here. We're gonna walk through some brand strategy stuff right now. So let me go share screen. Window. Cool, perfect. All right. So we're going to kick off. Let's kick off with this slide here. So when we talk about what the difference is in 2026 versus the things we've dealt with in 2025, is that there's like so much stuff that brands can do. It's almost overwhelming, right? If you look at content, if you look at all the things that are happening, and you have 100 strategies you could pursue. And it's like, oh, these people are crushing it on TikTok shop. These people are building AI brands. These people are doing long form content. These guys are doing pop-up shops. And you bookmark all this stuff and you essentially get like completely overwhelmed trying to figure out what you should do, especially if you're a small brand. But I see this in large brands too, because it's just like there's 100 options. You end up not doing many well. And so I put together this chart to help you kind of like comprehend where it is. Because I think for big brands and small brands alike, it's worth identifying what you do now and then picking like maybe two things, like maybe two. One may even be fine to like really zone in on for like 6 months. Because with all these things to do, like if you're going to pursue any of them, you have to like actually go after it and be good at it. You're not going to do it if you're trying to do 12 at once. So this chart goes from basically things that are way more sales focused to things that are way more awareness focused on the bottom, where like you're probably not generating as many sales, but different brands have different priorities. And then have like normie, things you'd expect people to do, all the way to fringe. And let me explain why this is important here. And if you're doing this exercise with a client or something too, this is useful to think through. So first, there are a lot of brands where the number one goal is to make sales. That is, let's say, probably 80% of people watching or working on it. They're trying to sell more stuff for their brands. So a lot of the things you should focus on are not the more interesting and glamorous things that we have on here. But then there's also a lot of brands now, especially who are kind of capped out on their awareness, who are having a hard time scaling their meta ads, are already at the top of the channels that they're using, and so they need to also focus on just building overall, like getting their brand out there, and that's more on the awareness side of it. And then anywhere you're sitting here, like kind of falls through both. And then we have normie. So if you're kind of working at like a business that it's not going to allow you to do anything interesting, or it's kind of older school, you do all the typical stuff. We're going to go into stores. We're going to run Google ads. We're going to do email marketing. We're going to be on LinkedIn and kind of scaling all the way over. And then if you look at, okay, we're a modern org. We want to take example of doing something that we know our competition won't do because they're older, or we're younger and more internet savvy. So there's things that we can do there. And this is kind of where you get over into this side of this, like running multi-account. So if you are on TikTok and Instagram, you're running 5 accounts on each of those because you're really savvy at it. That's solid. Hiring a creator to get on feed for you is more fringe than it is normie, et cetera. And so your job right now with whatever you are doing, working on, is to look at this, like this chart, and add in whatever that you would want and be like, what is our focuses for this year? Let me pop over to the chat real quick before I go way too far in here. Oh shit, Terrence, what's up, brother? Hope you're doing well. For people checking on the tour stuff, you should see approval here like in the next day or so. But I know Toronto and Miami are pretty overbooked. But New York still has slots. All right. So just making sure I'm covering all the questions here. So how do you even decide what to do there? So this is just a general marketing funnel exercise where you look at what you're doing today and what you're doing tomorrow. So for any business, if you look at today, it's like, okay, what are we doing to get people initially aware of our brand? Like what is happening at the top of our funnel? What are we doing in the middle? How are we educating and nurturing people? So what happens in the middle of the funnel? How are we making them into like advocates and fans? At the bottom, how are we closing sales? And so if you're going to do an exercise like this, you want to map out, you start at the top and be like, okay, for our top, we're doing influencer marketing. That's how we get top funnel awareness. Or, we're using Instagram, whatever. If you don't have a plan for it, you can kind of see where your holes are, because some businesses are really bad at all of these. And it's the opposite too. I meet with a lot of people they run big like viral accounts and they go, well, we can't make any sales. It's because they have no bottom of funnel plan. And sometimes also because they have no middle of funnel to nurture downwards. They have no marketing plan for it. And then you want to look at tomorrow, like basically map where are you today? What are your holes? What do you do? And then what does an ideal scenario look like to kind of fill those in? You can go back to the reference chart of the stuff we have here, and I will send all this out to my email list this week. You'll actually get all these PDFs and stuff so you can run all the way through this. But you can be like, okay, we need to focus on, we're going to integrate like SMS marketing. That's going to be a plan for us to like hit our bottom of funnel. We're going to work on getting affiliate live. Any kind of these things you can begin to tie into an awareness, especially like, okay, we need to get in front of more people. We should consider doing like a trade show, or we should consider popping into streaming, whatever it is. But you need to kind of make a concrete plan of like, what are you going to do there? And bottom of funnel is the easiest one to solve, right? If you have a top of funnel attention in the middle, that's when you can really go into, are we spending money on retargeting ads? What are we doing? What's our Instagram stories plan? Like, do we want to do pop-up shops? Do we are we using a broadcast channel for our Instagram, and how? What's our email marketing look like? Where can we have more contact touch points with people we already have? So this quadrant is one that you can really easily hone in on. But the same thing goes for content. I know a lot of you guys watch my videos because you are trying to improve your content, but that funnel is the exact same way. And so this is the worksheet I use whenever we're workshopping content, where most brands, if you watch my videos, they have pillars. They have 3 to 5 things they recurringly do in their content. So a good example of a pillar structure, say you had a jewelry brand, would be you're doing like really aesthetic highlight reels is like your top of funnel, for instance. In the middle of funnel, you have a jeweler actually explaining what cuts are popular or what cuts look good on what size or color of hands, for like different things like in the middle. And then at the bottom, you have like a specific, like, hey, we actually, we do live Q&A consults, 3 times a month for people looking to get their rings or whatever it is. But you have and you're filming them and you're going through the sales process. That might be your pillars, for instance. And when you look at, if you're a creator, so for instance, for me, my content pillars, top of funnel, I talk about products. I do my product versus brand series. I do buying guides. Middle of funnel, I do marketing content, cultural content, kind of educational stuff, like thought-provoking stuff. And then bottom of funnel, I do ads. So the way to look at this is to look at those pillars now. Write out those 3 to 5 things that you have, even if they're not good, and see what is it's the same funnel, right? What is at the top? What is at the middle? What is at the bottom? What is attracting people up here? What are you using to convert? And then grade yourself. Compared to the field, and is it an A? Is it a C? Is it an F? That's what you're going to want to kind of put inside this chart. What pillars do I have? Where do they fit in the funnel? And am I good at it? You get an honest assessment of where you're at. And this allows you to look at, okay, well, where do I need to go, right? Where do we want to improve? This is especially important if you actually need to get someone to sign off on this, right? So if you have to have a boss of any kind and you want someone to actually like get it working for you, then you're going to have to actually go through a process with them. This is why I like stuff like this. All the things I do here are designed to be able to educate executives onto why they should make decisions. It's my specialty inside this process, being able to have that communication with older, more established business people who don't understand social media, right? And so we need to look at it to be like, okay, cool. Right now we do this for our top of funnel and our grade is a D. We don't get any attention from it. So we need to fix it. We need to change something there. You need to give them a reason to change, then present what you're going to do to change it. So pillars, this is another one where you're going to start, okay, what would our new pillars be? We want to try out, we think we could reach a lot more people if we had a creator doing interviews, street interviews about like, testing people's diamonds to see if they're real, whatever it is. That's our top of funnel. Now you have a plan to actually put in there. Here's what we want to change, to actually, or hey, we're really good at middle of funnel. We're going to keep it the same. And then you actually list out the actions of, okay, if we were going to get street interviews, like what would we do? We're going to search for a vendor. We're going to set a budget aside. We're going to come up with briefs, and you can actually action list that out. So it's a good look at an exercise of what to do to think of your content or your client's content or a brand from where it's at today to where it's at tomorrow. Let me pop back over in here into the chat and be able to just hit any questions real quick. All right, cool. We got a bunch of people on here. Let's go. For David asking, don't you think streaming can be very sales? And sure, if you have a huge audience to start. But even then, it would like live shopping, for instance, could be like that chart's not a perfect chart. It's just like getting the wheels turning on that. Like live shopping, for instance, is extremely sales oriented. Twitch streaming is not super sales oriented. So that's one way to think about it. How to get your email list? It's just my email list is either at it's just hyperstudios.us. So I'll pop that in the chat because I'm setting all that out. Okay, what would you do for a real estate agent? Okay, so I actually have a really good example of a real estate agent because I was just talking with Colin Landforce about this. One sec. Someone said the YouTube is restricted, so I'm just double checking here that it is public. Yeah, it is. So there shouldn't be any restriction issues. All right. So yeah. So one thing all right. So this guy is a good example. This guy is a Colorado realtor. I'm going to pull him open in a different tab. Share screen. All right. So hopefully you guys can see my guy, Kyle. So I saw Kyle's content because this video. a billionaire is losing $1 million a day. So he's a Colorado realtor and he's talking about a Colorado issue. So his top of funnel is things that are happening in Telluride, right? And so this could be the case, whether you're in New Mexico, whatever it is, there's probably local issues. You may not be getting 49,000 likes in your local issue, but you probably don't need that as a realtor. You're getting 15,000 views in your top of funnel content as a local realtor, you're fucking smashing it. All right, like those are just potential customers for you. But he is explaining a local problem and breaking it down and giving a result on it. So basically, as a realtor, he is functioning as a conversation starter around things that are happening there. And then at the same time, you'll see bottom of funnel content, market update. Here's what the pricing is, all these areas are going up, and here's the average price in these different zip codes. And so if you're interested in it, you're gonna be like, oh man, prices are going up everywhere. I should consider selling, or oh, maybe I need to buy now, and he's gonna tap you in. But so he's basically using news for his top of funnel. And he talks a lot about kind of Telluride. He's doing more middle of funnel stuff like his day in the life, what's going on when he actually is doing like realtor stuff, what again doesn't get as many views, but shows people and gets his personality in there, and then bottom of funnel stuff as well. So he is a perfect example. I will put his link in the YouTube chat, but there is basically room for across the US. Let me stop sharing here real quick. Across the US, and also like the world, every neighborhood has room for content like this in general. Okay, the feeling of asked, when you grade, is it like 1 to 3, good or bad? I usually do A through F because it's easy for people to understand, but honestly, there may be some cultural differences. You can do whatever. This is just a framework, right? Adapt it however you want. Thoughts on how this works for nonprofits who need donations. Okay, so the biggest thing I want to get across when we do this is in every time I do any piece of content or any streaming, there's always something like, how does this apply to my industry? And the answer is like every single thing applies. Your brain is just like stuck in the fact that whatever you're doing is kind of like uninteresting to you, because that's what most people are. They're like, I mean, how can I ever make my construction business exciting? But you have to realize that people are basically interested in anything as long as it's told in an exciting way. And so, for instance, for a nonprofit, if you were looking at top, middle, and bottom of funnel, like the top is like the root of the issue. Say you have a nonprofit that's about water quality. I'm just making shit up. If you really get into the issue of water quality and you're basically doing investigative deep dives of Flint or hey, I'm actually going to go look at the reports, or how has the water changed over time, or what do contaminants really mean, or like the deep dive of fluoride. You're providing an education thing at the top that people are interested in widely, right? And you're going to get attention there. And in the middle of the funnel, you're like, this is what we do inside of this is the day in the life of someone running a nonprofit. This is the behind the scenes of us putting together our gala. This is a breakdown of where our money went. I think would go really well. It's like we invested $72,000 back with blank this last year. Here's where that money goes, and actually break it down. That's good middle of funnel content. And then bottom of funnel is the actual fundraising. Being like, well, we got 24 hours. We're trying to get to X goal. We have X kind of a build up, or this is why we're raising money for it, contribute to then, gamify it for every content. You have a donor that's going to match, hey, for like anytime someone comments, they're going to put $10 on it, like, and try to get something excited. Like all of this stuff is equally as applicable as it is the sales process for a brand. Hit some more questions before I drop back into it. A lot of questions here. Let's go. Yes, you can get a hold of this template. I'm going to send the template to the email this week. We're actually still revising these. This is I'm using for tour that starts Friday. So as soon as they're done, they're going out to the list, so you'll be able to use them. How would you tweak this for luxury service providers? Same exact thing, except it's just from a luxury angle. So like, for instance, like a high-end med spa is a perfect example of like, what are the things that a high-end med spa customer is interested in? So if you want to brainstorm top, middle, and bottom of funnel, it all starts with what your customer's interested in, right? So if I'm going to a high-end med spa, it's like, what are the most interesting procedures? Like, what is a vampire facial? Like, what are all the women in Aspen doing, or whatever, or Paris doing this year in terms of their dermatological treatments? Like, break down what's in vogue or in trend, or what interesting or weird procedures are, just in general, gives you top of funnel. But then middle of funnel is, hey, here's content of us doing it. Like, how do we can we show some really like visually appealing or interesting or satisfying or ASMR of that stuff? And the bottom of funnel is like, come sign up for this tomorrow. Like, Meg has 14 spots. Like, this is Meg, and here's what she can do for you. And she's going to walk through some of the procedures. Like, it's just reframing yourself to, what is my customer interested in at the highest level? How do I document what we're doing that's still interesting in the middle level? And then how am I asking people for money at the bottom level? Oh, how do you think about the funnel for more traditional brands to sell through brick and mortar? Same thing, except your goal is to get people to go to the store. And look, and brick and mortar and physical retail is like the biggest cheat code right now for content in general. We had someone in Cut 30, this woman Shelly, who's a baker the other month, where she's like reviewing other places in Vermont or Connecticut or wherever she is, and like showing stuff in behind her store. But it's that same thought we had in the realtor. Like, how can you be a tour guide for your area? How can you show the place where you're at and like what your opinions are about things? And your call to action is just have foot traffic come through. Uh, yeah, shout out to Terrence. Terrence and I worked together, fucking God, like 15 years ago. Terrence worked at the job where I had to convince the CFO, who was former Microsoft, to pay like 40 grand for animal training for us to do a viral video. And this is back when like the Harry's Dollar Shave Club, or sorry, Dollar Shave Club ad had first come out. It was like first viral. And it was like, so it was like still early, like YouTube viral era. And I was like, hey, we have a viral idea. We're going to do this viral thing. We worked with a drone company. And it was like, I was like, we talked to these animal trainers. We convinced them that like, they were like, hey, we can teach these apes to fly these drones. Like, it's not that hard. And it was like, okay, what would the cost be? We're going to film it. We had this whole like kind of like launch thing. We had this whole like 2001 A Space Odyssey tie-in. And with our like very nerdy demographic, like, B&H, NAB types, was going to work. And instead it's just me on the phone with like a CFO. And I was like 28 at the time being like, look, let me explain to you viral videos. We've been doing this for a long time. Shout out Terrence. And Land Force was with us back in the day then too. Oh shit, Nick, what's up, brother? I'm gonna get back into the exercises here in a second. People ask about the Toronto tour. The Toronto tour, I think, is pretty maxed out right now. They're letting people know tomorrow. Definitely sign up still, because as people go or reject it, they're gonna add stuff in. But just worth noting. All right, I'm gonna pop back into the training stuff. I have the curse of the many tabs. All right, let's go to share. Screen, window. We are back on the workbook. Okay, cool. So if you are just coming in and you missed it so far, we talked about this chart of like sales to awareness and what you can do for your marketing team, and like normie to fringe. And again, if you are younger or have your own brand, like operating in the fringe is going to be great for you, because other people won't. Your competition won't. So that's why it's like you will probably get better results if you do an SMS program than an email program. Most people just really feel weird doing SMS. And so that is an advantage for you if you are willing to do it. Same thing with clipping, same thing with streaming, same thing with being on Snap. All right, so let's talk about what we want to do next. Okay, should I do, all right, year planning. So this is the exercise we do at every brand I have and I work with every single year, is that we do basically this chart of quarters and months and what's happening. And so if you are trying to make a marketing plan for your brand, what are we going to do? Or make a marketing plan for your client to sell them your services, you are going to walk through this here. And I also do this as a creator because I've noticed that creating is very seasonal too. And we'll talk about that in a minute. So these are all different areas here. And so usually I actually start with the sales and social heat map. So basically, if you are selling on Shopify, or you're a retail brand, or you sell info products or whatever, go map out your sales from last year. You'll have your sales. And I will literally, in the printed version of this, I will go red to green, or dots to filled in. What are our biggest sales periods that are happening here? So for instance, like November, December for most e-com brands are going to be fucking crazy. But June, July last year, you may have been completely dead. Or the opposite. I used to work with Lift Oils, like a big surf brand. We would smash it. April to September, on fire. Couldn't do a thing, no matter what we wanted to, November to February, because no one's trying to buy a surfboard, right? Maybe in Australia, but even then. So actually go map out your sales. Where were those key points? And we'll talk about what to do with that in a second. Same thing with social. And this is crucial. And now that people still act like social media is like a brand new marketing thing, like if you have been on social for a few years, you have a lot of crucial info to look at. So for instance, I went back through my own personal social last year, every single month. What did I do? What worked, what didn't work, and basically what should I repeat? What is like had to be timely? Like what did it work because it was of that time, and what worked because it was a unique strategy? I can begin to kind of list out those notes of where I place it. So for instance, for me, I was in China in April. China is a big map out. Do I want to go there in April again? June, July, I had an epiphany last year as a creator that people really just didn't want to be learning a bunch of marketing shit June and July. So my educational content the previous summer had just not really been working well. So I was like, you know what? Fuck it. We're going to have fun most of summer. I'm going to do like one educational video. I'm going to post fun shit. I'm going to post about like the marketing of beach clubs. I'm going to post about me going to Italy. We're going to do like a lot of more top of funnel stuff because that's what people want. And I can get back into education in the end of Q3 into Q4 because people are then now focused on we got to make money for Black Friday. So go through your social heat map. What worked, what didn't. And now your goal there is to identify holes, right? So when you are, where did you need to make sales and you couldn't? Where did you need to have good content and you didn't? And then what can you repeat? Should we be repeating this event, this thing, this style, this series within that map? So that's step one, is sales and social. Actually, map that out with colors or whatever. Then you go into events. So culture and industry events. What is happening here? So for instance, in culture, February would be Valentine's Day. Summer, we have summer break. September is back to school. Then you have Q4, whatever it is, the Super Bowl. All the January and your resolutions, things that are happening in culture that would matter to your brand. You could hook your social content into, or your releases, your campaigns. If you're a sports team, you would map the seasons. If you are a running brand, you're going to map all the major marathons across the world, right? You want to put all that stuff down. Industry, same thing. So actually the marathons and stuff would probably go more inside this industry column. But what is happening in your niche? Is there a huge trade show? Does everyone debut their stuff here? Does Apple, and you're competing with Apple, do they always make an announcement at the same time that you should position against? Map those dates out and identify them on the calendar. So now you've got your sales, your social, what's happening in culture, and what's happening in industry. You have a pretty good idea of what your year looks like. And now you kind of have these two items here, your launches. Do you already have stuff committed to? You need to plan to release stuff. So if you're a clothing brand, are you doing drops every month? Are you doing seasonal collections? What are you doing? Like, what are you announcing? And I would frame this way too. If you have info and services businesses, et cetera, too, is they don't do proper launches. And you should. If you launch a new course, or you launch a new, you're launching a new dermatology service, whatever it is, make content about it, schedule it as a launch, promote it like you are a company launching a product. It's going to go a wildly long way for you. Let me pause and just make sure. All right, we still got people. They're still with me. And then we're going to go into missing out. What did you miss out on last year? That's why this exercise is good to do at the beginning of the year. Look back month by month. What did you wish you had done that you haven't? And you can start to fill in other things down here. Now you begin to have your year, you begin to have your list of priorities. And that's a great way to think about marketing and a great thing to do right now. And I think what we're gonna do when we're doing the live workshops, on tours, we're actually just gonna whiteboard this all out. All right, so on that note, I'm trying to make sure I properly stop this a decent amount to be able to chat with y'all. All right, let's pop into this chat here. I run an English language school in Europe focused on business people. What should I do for content? Yeah, role play content is the content for this, right? And do ridiculous scenarios. It's way funnier. It's not just how do you say, in a meeting, how do you, in whatever culture, how do you press for a sale? It's way more funny if it's if you really dial up the scenario. It's guy trying to buy private jet, but he only has $78,000 or whatever it is. Come up with what can you do that has any level of interest or has funny things. I always use the analogy of the accountant, where it's if you're an accountant and you're explaining depreciation, if you just explain depreciation, no one's going to give a shit. If you explain what salary level you should purchase a G-Wagon and then how G-Wagons depreciate, all of a sudden you have people's attention, right? What is a cultural magnet you can grab off to for that? How would you apply this for photography? It's the same exact thing, right? All this is the same. It's at the top of the funnel. What can you do that's just wildly interesting to your demographic that gives a wide swath in? And then how you describe what you do, your service down below. Same thing with the calendar. What are the trade shows that are going to come out? When do you usually get a lot of bookings? How do you map that out? And then with launches, if you launch a new package, you'd be I'm doing weddings now, or hey, we just added the drone to our service kit or whatever. Treat that as a launch, even if it's just to your smaller demographic. Oh, do you put a CTA in top of funnel vids? No. I honestly, we talk about this a lot in Cut 30 about just don't even care. Your only job with top of funnel content is to get awareness, right? Because it's the way algorithms work. And so there's top of funnel marketing and there's top of funnel content. Top of funnel marketing is getting people aware of your product. You probably want them to click and begin an experience. That's one thing. Top of funnel content, your only goal is to get your target demographic to see your content on TikTok and Instagram. Why is that? Because of the way the algorithms work. You've noticed if you see someone's video and you like it, then you begin to see 1,000 more of those people's videos, right? Or not 1,000 more, but you at least see a couple more of those videos popping up pretty regularly. So your goal is to get there, right? Because then they're going to get shown your middle of funnel content. You're going to lose people along the way. That's fine. Not everyone's meant to graduate down the funnel. Example, I make top of funnel content in my Instagram about product reviews. I will literally be like, what toaster should you buy? And it's a wide swath of people. But I always, I focus it on tasteful, luxury, more expensive choices because my demographic is a rich business person, right? The person that is going to be interested in marketing services, those kind of things. They're going to be into marketing in general, or they're going to be into business in general. And I want to be able to have access to decision makers in business. And a lot of those people want to know what luxury rug they should buy. And then when I go a level down into like marketing education, why did this branding choice happen? What happened inside this campaign? Here's how you think about influencer. The people who are interested in business, who were interested in products at the top, follow me down the funnel. Again, it's not everyone, but it works really, really well. And there's no call to action on any of that top of funnel stuff. It's just getting people involved to get them to the middle. And if you want to include something on there, just get people on email, right? One thing I'm also going to rant about here is DMs. Like if you're on social media and you are selling any level of service, you need to be proactively DMing. If someone's commenting a bunch on your stuff, like get to know them. We had this in Cut 30 with a roofing company where they're like, we're getting a lot of views and a lot of comments, but no one's inquiring about a roof. I'm like, well, you want to look at the people commenting and see if any of them are in your region and DM them and ask them if they are looking to get a roof. And lo and behold, they start DMing and they immediately get sales from it. And so I would say that like, if you are especially a B2B service or you're selling anything high ticket, like get into that one-to-one communication. There has never been the ability to get so close to like the people that are like your product and be able to have direct feedback or give them recommendations. Something I think it was Elf Cosmetics was doing, and they had a big campaign on TikTok, was they were basically using all their comments as recommendations. So instead of like commenting like a plus emoji when someone says something nice about like a product or whatever, they'd be like, have you tried the X and Y? Or, oh, this is a great combo. Every comment as a recommendation became a social generator for them. So it's an interesting concept. All right. I'm sorry, keep it rolling down. There's a shitload of comments on here, so give me a second. All right. Someone, what was your first marketing job shitty or a good experience? It was fine. I had a great mentor at my first marketing job, and this is why I encourage. I know all the young people will hate this, but like working in office was great because I never would have had this experience. Where I had my first job where I transitioned from being a graphic designer to a marketer. I had someone who initially didn't really believe in what I was capable of, but then grew into it over time by working closely with me in the office every day and provided me a lot of great mentorship. Someone who had been at a lot of agencies and stuff, and that was really helpful. The job itself was a fucking nightmare, but that doesn't matter. That's a good thing. I wouldn't be good at what I did if I hadn't have like 10 nightmare, extremely hard job experiences. And if you want to have those kind of things, you have to get into jobs that are in person and that are working with people that are hitters, and it's not necessarily easy. But to be fair, like I switched careers. Like I was a designer. I got into like an entry level marketing role because I could also design, right? So it's easy enough for me to be able to like I could do the email marketing because I can already design the emails. There's a lot of stuff that works that way. And I went to school for design. I'm a fashion and beauty creator. I do a lot of storytelling. Any advice? I made a tweet about this. I'll put in here too about like expert content, right? You want to have expert content that works and drives value to business and gets you leads and clients. I'll just drop a link to this. Hopefully it works inside the YouTube. Like this is the blueprint. You do like credible suggestions. Like what did you like provide insight for people based on your experience, go through scenarios, break down things against each other, give advice to people a level below you. That's the blueprint for that. So that tweet is in there. All right, bunch in here. I'm going to get into the next phase post calendar here in a second. So Dave asks, how to build good videos for top of funnel. You never truly get outliers. You only get 20 to 30 views after more than 200,000 videos. So first 20 to 30,000 views is pretty, depending on how niche you are, like isn't bad. But you have to break every video down, every piece of content down to its core. And you can look at your data to do this. But basically it's, does my hook need to improve? Does my topic need to improve? Or does my retention need to improve? And you can look at that. You basically look at the hook rate of your video. So that's the 3-second dwell time. It's in it'll be in insights, it'll be in edits for Instagram, it's in insights for TikTok. You just look at how many people are left at 3 seconds and how can I improve that? And if you laser focus on that, and I'd say 90% of content issues is usually with your hook rate. And so are you like, how do I make a more interesting angle? Do I animate my text in? Do I have like a more aggressive, how do I fix that hook? And for if you're getting 20, 30,000 views already, If your hook rate isn't amazing, then you have a huge opportunity just fixing that first 2 to 3 seconds and trying a bunch of stuff. Second thing is topic. A lot of people will make really great content, but the topic just isn't wide enough. Like not anyone cares. So it's like, how do you go a level up in topic? And a usual recommendation I have for that is to make it, is comparison, where it's like, hey, if I'm making content about sparkling water, if I just make it about sparkling water and I get 20,000 views, I'm probably capping out. But if I compare and contrast the difference between good and bad sparkling water or rating stuff within it, it goes to a much wider range of people. People are inherently interested in comparison, in argument, and in tea, right? In like drama, storylines, etc. So how do you institute that, like topic wise? And then retention. If you have a good hook, but then your videos fall off, you're not actually providing any value or getting people interested in your content, and you need to fix it from there. This is like the tactical level stuff that whoever you are working on with content, whether it's you or someone else, like you need to really like look at that. And I have a video about content pillars. And the last webinar I did like this was about content pillars, where we dive into some of that. Also wondering if you can dive into why I think founder content for CPG is dead. Yeah, so look, there used to be this content style that's like the builder. We used to call it in Cut 30. We used to have a whole track on it, and we cut it. It was like day one of building a blank, blank, blank business. And the reason it's dead is because no one gives a shit anymore. We've already seen 50,000 creators be like, I quit my job in private equity to start a, beef tallow business. Like, it's no longer interesting. It used to be exciting. Now it's not as aspirational because basically everyone who's actually interested in doing it, most of them have already done it. It's not super compelling, and it's selfish content. It's content about you, and no one gives a shit. People are selfish. They want to hear content about them that gives them value. And so that has just become a much less high performing thing over time. Where it still is good is brick and mortar, right? So if you are opening a coffee shop, you're opening a fucking burger place, if you're basically combining that content with almost like a construction reality show, I still see those do really well. But that's a good thing. That content was hard to produce and particularly complicated. And I don't think is the best content for a brand to sell. I would look at the best people I think who still do storytelling content around building a business is this brand Bad Hombres on Instagram. They do an excellent job at basically telling the hero's journey about things that happen in their business. But it's not builder, it's not behind the scenes. It's more here's the things that are going on as we complete this stuff that we're working on. Here's what products we're bringing to you. All right. Rolling through this, and we got a lot of folks in here. Best ways to verbalize your target market. Well, think of who's trying to buy your product. And if you don't know, there's services that do that. If you have a Shopify, you don't know who your product buys, there's a software called Outer Signal that I use all the time, which is great. They'll actually go through and just give you demographic data on your Shopify customers. Highly recommend them. You can ask ChatGPT for targets. I've done that with Copilot and with ChatGPT, about products I am unaware of. You can use Perplexity. One of the things we do on TikTok all the time, as many of you know, my day job is in as a private equity firm in beauty, and we're doing diligence on companies we're going to buy. Is I will go onto TikTok, I will use Perplexity, I will say search 100 videos on TikTok, go through the comments and tell me the common problems that people are having, what people are complaining about, and the demographics of the people that are talking. That's going to be skewed more towards the demographics that are on TikTok, but it will literally go and analyze videos for people's race. It will give you your oh, it's millennials who are they skew Latina. It is very good at putting out information. And especially if you don't need it to be enterprise level precise, you can get a lot out of there. Credit unions or banks. Look, I actually had this conversation. I did some sponsored content with Mercury. I tried to pitch them. Mercury's great. I tried to pitch them on more because I actually think that the best part of banks and credit unions have the biggest opportunity ever. And obviously I'm doing a series with Cash App right now, as many of you may have seen, where people don't understand the basic concepts of math or the P&L or banking or what their options are. And if you are a bank, just putting someone credible on camera to be why do I only get a 4% return on my savings rate? What is a SEP IRA? Giving the basics of that and being have some personality or be somewhat funny and doing scenarios especially again, funny scenarios is the solution to so much of this. If you're it's a recently divorced couple with 8 kids and and the husband makes $11,000 a year and the wife makes $2.1 million a year. Wonder what she does. And the other if you have some level of funny in the experiment, but then you actually literally tactically break down their household budget, that's great content. What does a perfect content creation team look like? The way I usually encourage most teams who are getting into this, because this is a great question, because a lot is off here, is you have one creator. One person who's okay being on camera and creating things around them. And then you have a strategist, someone who is helpful writing content, getting topics, and will hold the camera for that first creator is like the core of that team. And then when you expand it, typically I would be adding an editor and I'd be adding another creator like on top of that. So when you get more like a 5-person team, and that's about as much as like one solid strategist manager person can handle. And you and you begin to scale from there. But you have to get that like one-to-one of like someone who's fine being on camera and someone who's fine having ideas and presenting and being in meetings. People try to combine them, and that person very rarely exists. People ask for mentorship stuff, but I barely have time to like do this stuff. But I will give away as much stuff as I can for free online. How do you address the conversation of overall marketing spend to a large company? I feel like industry percentage norms create more confusion and apprehension. Industry percentage is it though. It's basically like, if you're depending on you will see like an existing company at like 6 to 8%, or depending on the industry, maybe that's 12 to 15%, or if they're growing or whatever. And it's a game of percents. And so it's about like getting that comp and then looking at where the waste is. Oh man, we got a lot of in here. All right, cool. I still have one or two more things left in these slides in terms of like the exercises. So I'm gonna hit that here in a second. Just making sure I've got any of these in here. How do you reliably find decent editors, designers? You can still find hella designers on. We just hired Shad Henry, who's in here. Like we're working with 2 people we found on Behance. You can hire off Behance. You can hire off Dribbble. You can hire off Upwork. You can hire off your Instagram or Twitter stories, and tweeting stuff is reliable. Video editors is more complicated. You kind of have to be lurking on X. There's a bunch of them. And then what was the Clipped, CLIPT? They help you get people from like the Philippines and stuff. They're pretty solid as well. When is your next Cut 30 opening again? Yeah, so Cut 30, we're in week 1 right now. Our next one is end of Feb. So it's going to be a minute before the next Cut 30. It's just waitlist now because we're still on week 1. We take 2 weeks off in between each of them. I am doing another one. We have, I think many of you know, I ran the beta on our like creative strategy one, which is just like a program specifically for learning how to serve organic and serve ads, like basically learning how to be a better marketer. I'm opening that back up here like any day. I just have to redo the landing page. And that's more like, it's like longer, and we have like an ongoing Slack and stuff like that. So that's like the next course related thing. But let me pop back here into the slides. And then I'll get into more questions. Hey, I'm not deleting this. Will be on YouTube. I think we're probably going to keep it up, even though I'm meandering for the first 10 minutes while I got all the tech right. Where was these exercises? Okay, we're going to go into campaigns. Let me share this here. So, and I'm going to email out all these docs at the end of the week, like I mentioned, once I actually have them all finalized, because we're still editing some stuff like layouts wise and stuff. Shout out to Air, who's doing the designs on these and who we're going on tour with. All right. So we talked about, for those who missed it, we talked about the options you have as marketers, like inside brands and stuff right now. There's a lot of them. And we talked about the overall marketing funnel. What are you doing for awareness, et cetera? We talked about the content funnel, how to grade it, they get to a new thing. We did not talk about reuse yet. Then we talk about the calendar. How do you plan out your marketing calendar for the year? Now we're going to talk about campaign planning. So this is a big one. This is a big part of what I work on at work. But basically, every time you release something, and I want everyone to think, everyone out here, no matter what you're in. So if you are a nonprofit, it's like, when do you kick off your next funding goal? That's a campaign launch for you. If you are a dermatologist office and you're like, okay, we're opening spring bookings, could be a campaign, or we're now offering, we're offering Botox. We're going to launch that we offer Botox or whatever it is. Opening a new store, you change your seasonal menu at a restaurant. This is funny. I don't do much work like in hospitality anymore, but a lot of my friends are in hospitality. And I had this conversation just the other day with someone who works at a restaurant. I was like, how often do you change your menu? And I was like, I don't ever see that like online. If you're doing that, like you should like make a whole campaign out of it. And it's a very, like, you should definitely do that. I remember there's a local spot to me here in Costa Mesa that did that when they launched like dinner as like a coffee shop, and they actually like did a campaign. They had a bunch of social media. They had all the stuff and physical things. They had like influencers posting about it. Like, smart to do that. Service, the same thing. Hey, we're offering websites now. Someone asked how they transition from like a freelancer to an agency. It's like, okay, what package are you offering as an agency, and who are you doing that with? And like launch that, with a series of content and stuff. So I just want to, before we even dive into how to plan a campaign, you should be doing campaigns for stuff. It's not just like for a clothing line release. So what does that look like? So each part of the campaign, you want to go through what it looks like. You have a tease, you have an unveil, you have a campaign, you have the behind the scenes, you have sustain, and you have a repulse. So this assumes that you're, even if you're launching a lot, but especially if you're only launching 1 or 2 things a year, you should definitely follow this rhythm. So tease means like, how are you letting your existing audience know ahead of time that something's coming? Straightforward enough. But you should actually fill that in, right? You need, I put 3 briefs here, but like usually you'll probably do 2 of like, what are we doing to get our audience excited beforehand? And you'll notice I have internal and external, because the way every brand needs to think about this is, what are we doing with our resources? What are we posting on our organic accounts? And what are we doing for others? That's why I have target in here as well. So basically, hey, can we get an influencer to also tease this campaign? Are we going to put a billboard up that can tease this campaign? What can we possibly do to get outside of our existing audience for it? And then we have the unveil. The unveil is really important. And I think underappreciated is like the first time someone sees the product or sees the thing. And so for instance, if you were launching a new protein bar, when you actually reveal the packaging or whatever, it's the unveil. They're like, okay, here's the actual thing and we're gonna walk through it. Same with the service. If you are, back to our dermatologist example, if you're offering vampire facials, then like when you actually show that for the first time, the result of the skin or whatever, it could be an unveil. Unveils are important because that asset's also usually really useful organic as an ad. It gets the biggest, like when someone shows off what the new iPhone looks like and you see the orange iPhone, that being seen for the first time is one of the most important assets. And so same thing with external, is someone unveiling that with you or for you, and what does that look like? And often this will be with influence. So if you guys are following the David campaign, I don't know how many of you are following this David, the campaign they're doing with Julia Fox, they did this big tease. They put all this stuff around this new bar, and they launched all these sets to influencers that had like some rated X stuff inside them that became that helped them debut the look and feel of this new bar. Then you have the campaign itself. What are like everyone thinks the campaign's over when you do the tease and then you show it. It's like, no, like what is the actual reveal of this? And there's a company, I put them in my marketing campaigns video, which is on my YouTube. It's the pinned one. But there was a company that did this really well recently. I think it was like a used clothing company where they had their core video. Then they took stills from the video and they made like humorous carousels using those, like memeable stuff on top of it, right? And so I always encourage people to like, every time you shoot a video, the stills from that video should also likely become a carousel, whether it's memes like that or whether you're using it to provide more information. Every campaign should have both for Instagram and for TikTok. And then what else are you doing? Are you doing other stuff, emails, etc.? And then with that, who are you collaborating with, like on the campaign? Is there models? Can you get them to post? A photographer, whatever it is, your employees that have a big following, a local creator, whatever. Who are you seeding? Can you give it to people for free? Whether it's software, whether it's a service, whatever that looks like. Can you give people free stuff to talk about it? And then is any media involved, whether that's paid or organic or not? But you map this out, internal and external, you have the foundations of a campaign. Now, if we look at these, behind the scenes is super crucial, where you want to have a plan for your behind the scenes assets, right? For the campaign, like there's a million formats for that. I'm probably gonna do a whole video just on behind the scenes at some point. But you want to be able to have a plan for that too. It's additional content that you aren't paying any more for, right? You should just be capturing that while you do it. And then sustain is basically, okay, once you've launched, how do you continue to have attention? Usually what I recommend most brands do for this is actually answer all the common questions. So if people are like, well, what is the fit like on the new pants? It's like, let's explain that in the video. The fit on the new pants is X. Or, what can I expect from X dermatological procedure, or whatever this looks like. Answer common questions in video in the sustain period. And then repulse is like, okay, are we going to lose attention in 3 months? Do we need to bring it back? Do we want to come up with any ideas now that we can shoot at the same time so we're already ahead of the game? It's the way to think about campaign planning. And when if you're a creative director or a creative strategist, you're being brought onto campaigns, use this chart, go here and plan your stuff out like that, and people will think that you are really, really, really on the ball. All right, let me pop back over to this and check out the chat for a second. All right. Do you fear AI hallucinations used for social listening? Yeah, I think everyone's just overblowing so much. You're just getting with a lot of like AI research, you're just getting a barometer. You're not using it to solve the world's fucking problems. If you're just like, hey, let me like, what is the target demographic? Like, who on TikTok is talking about this product and like, what are their opinions on it? Like, I'm not worried about us having hallucinations. It's going to get me directionally correct. I think we are so overblown on like what AI is or isn't here. Like, you're going to be fine. I struggle to find really good content scripters. Yeah, that's a super fucking hard skill, and that's why we have so many people who could go to Cut 30. Is they've become good content scripters, because that shit is super hard, and you're gonna have a hard time getting it. You need to hire existing creators, and that's gonna be hard because they probably make more money than most people are used to. But that is the current battle right now. The most useful people in marketing right now are people that can write actual content that performs and strategize for it, and even more the people that can wrangle it, being like, oh, I'll go get an editor and I'll brief the creator and I'll put feedback in the doc. Those actual strategies is like the most important job that is out there, and there's so few people that can do it. David, how are you finding them and validating if they're good or bad? Truth is a big piece of succeeding on social is the degree of copying and pasting. Oh, he's asking if David up above. Okay. Transition from freelance brand e-com to starting an agency. I think we hit that there before. It's about you got to create an offer and get a couple people together. Any advice for content I can make as someone learning video marketing to sell my services to businesses? I have camera skills, but my content game is weak. I would make content that really shows the camera skills. Like, the kind of sets the hook and it's like, I can't believe bro can do this, or how do we get it to look like this, or Manners Golf just did one where they had like a behind the scenes, like really, show off the capability of the skill, and then use yourself just for a little bit of that. But you can DM me on Slack. We'll talk about it. And for campaigns, like that's my chart on my YouTube pinned is a video where I like show it visually, because I'm not going to do that here on live, where you can go through a bunch of this. If you have any recommendations on reads, things to study for campaign deck making, not particularly. There's not a lot. That's the reason I do a lot of this. Is there's just not a lot of great stuff out here. Any resources to get better at graphic design? Yeah, there's a bunch of there are a lot of YouTube channels that have like actual direct tutorials of like how you have to basically do the actual thing. And so if you find a YouTube channel that's like make a poster design and you go do the poster, that's going to help you a lot more, like doing the actual exercises. I'm working to get better at design all the time. There's a grid. I put a resource. It's probably still in my bio. I'll see if I can grab it real quick. A resource about like learning the grid in Swiss design, which I can't recommend enough to people. It's basically the difference between good and bad. Yeah, here we go. I'll pop it over here. Just a free educational resource. It's right there. How do you price your service as someone who has experience in multiple areas? It really comes down to the value people perceive on it or are willing to pay for it. It's less about what your experience is and more is like, what are you replacing or removing for somebody? It's a really complicated thing. I always encourage most creatives, you're thinking about pricing your stuff, think about it in terms of an offer, right? So for instance, I don't sell, I'm not like selling a consulting package, right? I have Cut 30 and I have this other course we do, but Cut 30 is like, in 30 days, you're going to learn short form content. And like that, and what is it worth for someone? And within those 30 days to be able to learn X thing, it's like one offer. It's not 20. I'm not going to help your brand. I'm not going to hop on the phone for an hour. I'm not going to do a 12-month thing. There's one thing that we can do that is the most applicable to most people. And so for you, it's thinking about like, okay, what is that one thing? I want to make websites. Okay, what do people typically pay for websites now? 15 grand, 12 grand, whatever. Okay. Can I do that for, you kind of look at that typical creative chart, right? Can I do it cheaper? Can I do it faster? Or can I do it better? And you want to try and get two of those and be like, all right, great. I think I can do that for 9,000. I'm gonna basically take 25% off what people existingly charge for this. And how long does it take them? It takes them 6 weeks. Well, I'm one person. I think I can do it in 5. And all right, so like now I have a value proposition. Now I can say, I'm gonna go out there, I'm gonna be cheaper, I'm gonna be faster than the competition. Or if you're amazing, if you look at your work and you're like, I am the best, then you can go, cool, I'm actually gonna price up market and I'm gonna market that I will make you a better thing than everybody else. I will make you a better thing faster. But how do you find that chart and find those two things? But I think it's really about finding your offer. I do social media services. I do graphic design. It's like I do brand identities. I do social media carousels, another one that people are hiring for right now. And you kind of zone in on that. One second. Host of Neil Brockman on the grid. Fucking respect out there, brothers and sisters. Shout out all my design heads. Yeah, that's what I'm doing with this next one. We're doing too. We are doing like a this next creative strategy thing that we ran the beta for, but I haven't like properly launched it again because I've just been busy. Is like literally like if you want to be a marketing service provider or like a marketing person that grows within an org with that skill. How do you land a role as a creative strategist or more of a freelance role? There are a lot of people hiring. Here's the problem with the creative strategist piece right now, especially for the paid creative strategist, is if you go on X is a great place. People are always posting for hiring for creative jobs and creative strategists in particular, but they're always like need experienced creative strategist who has done like X high ticket DM offers, right? So there's a skill gap between people that want to be creative strategists and then people are hiring for experienced creative strategists. And so that's honestly purely like a gap right now where you have to get your way into some level of media buying. to be able to bridge it, but I don't have a great answer for it. But getting, again, the answer for content creative strategies, there's two sides of creative strategy, paid and organic. The organic side is like every social media manager job now is a creative strategist job. It's just not positioned correctly. That's what people don't know what they want. They think they want someone to post stuff and make everything, and really they need someone to like give them good ideas, like what David asked about before, like script for them. And that is something where if you are on X or you're on Instagram and you're advertising that you're doing that, I don't know if Carson's still on, but he's been putting a lot of that out there too. You will get interest. Besides, second best way to learn content scripting, I'll just give you the sauce of what we do inside Cut 30, right? Like copy work is the way to learn content scripting. You go to take a video and manually, don't cheat, don't use a transcript tool, whatever. You write out the video. So you take, whether it's a campaign or whether it's a talking head, and you go, okay, what was the hook? What did they say? What was on screen? What was the title? How long was it? Okay, then what happened? Was it a joke? Was it a whatever? And you begin to develop these frameworks. And I have like hundreds of these frameworks where it's like, oh, like hook, joke, point one, point two, you know, like you'll begin to like basically break it into these little things you can then apply to like little templates you can use for different content. You begin to see what works or not. So I have a bank, and if you've been in Cut 30, you'll see I post them basically the entire time of like, here's these like little tidbits of this that you can use as inspiration. But like anyone can do that. It just takes you actually going and mapping out, why does this content work? What's the frameworks? And then applying it enough to learn. I'm an experienced creative strap. I think I'm underpaid. What's the min comp I should be looking at? If you are doing it for paid media, then there's a lot of 120 to 140 jobs out there. For paid, if you're doing that for Meta in particular, that is roughly where that is in the US. If you are in more of a like organic and stuff, it's still kind of all over the place, like where you'll get entry level stuff in like, you know, like any social media role, 60 and 90, et cetera. But like if you are a creative strategist for Meta who can wrangle ads and creators, that's a, like Motion had the whole thing on this. So it's like 140K. Any new media channels to run ads not saturated, the big company may be blind to. If you're really scaling, people like talking about AppLovin. I'm not necessarily convinced on that. I think it's worth taking the Snap ads credit and trying it. Again, if you're advertising elsewhere, I wouldn't be trying to go fringe. Like Meta and TikTok, before you do anything else, is still going to get you the most trackable return and the best kind of results for that. Google will be incremental on there. YouTube is kind of worth testing probably before any of those other ones I mentioned. But there's no like fringe ad thing that I think, again, like AppLovin is, once you've already gone through all your other channels, then maybe you go on that. But no, like it's still, the game is still pretty much the same. It's hard to see what's working for startup level CPG right now. Yeah, like founder led content is like the founder, but it's different. Like Alan, the fiber guy, I'll grab his stuff. His stuff's working here where he's not talking about building a brand. He's talking about fiber. Like he's talking about the subject at hand. He's a cut 30 grab where he's like, cool, here's this really important thing. We all talk about protein. We should be talking about fiber. And then he does crazy viral, like Mr. Beast style experiments on that, but like at a low budget, where he's like, cool, I'm gonna eat all this crazy stuff and see what the fiber impact is. And then he also does like actual breakdowns of like why fiber matters. And so it is a educational storytelling world right now, 100%. All right, I'm gonna wrap it up here in like a couple minutes. So any last questions you have? Okay, yeah, the repurpose content. I'll pull up this last slide real quick. Good call. Thank you for calling that out, whoever did it. I will hit the last slide I had inside this. And this is an important one because people do not utilize the assets that they pay for nearly enough. So basically, if you're already creating content and it's good, caveat that it's good. If it's not good, you have an issue to solve first. But basically, a lot of time when companies are like, we don't have a budget to create more stuff and we still need to get more results, the conversation comes down to what are you creating already and how do we make sure that goes farther than what it is? So this is a map I use where basically to help companies create a process. This isn't going to solve, this is probably the least interesting or like glamorous of the ones we have here because it's a process creation doc, but it's like, all right, you have an asset. We made a piece of social media content that does well. A creator made one for us. An influencer, we paid an influencer for a piece of content, or we gave someone a product and we got a piece of content, whatever that ends up being, blog post, picture, carousel, video, a good asset. I should probably amend this to say good asset. What else can we do with it? Have we used it thoroughly? So the number one that most people don't do is, do we post it everywhere, right? Like literally if you were a brand, Instagram, TikTok, your corporate LinkedIn, a personal LinkedIn of people that are like a founder running the company. Is it on YouTube Shorts? Is it on X? If you have a younger audience, is it on Snap? Like cosmetic companies that are not on Snap are missing out. Substack, amazing one. I cross-post all my stuff to Substack, extremely rewarding audience on there for more knowledge work stuff or taste economy, or CPG will probably do good too. But it's like, cool, there'll be cross posts first. Before you do anything else, like maximize the value of the asset. If you were only posting on these top 2 and now you added these 5, maybe you just got yourself 20% more reach, which isn't much on a 20,000 view video. Over the course of a fucking year, it's a shitload. And then it's like, what else are we doing with it? Is this going on PDPs to help improve our conversion rate? Do we have like actual assets on each PDP? Product detail page, for those who don't know. Basically, you click to a website and go to a product sales page. Are we using it inside our email blast? Can we send email blasts of just content that we're getting? Are we putting it inside our email automation? Is it a sales enablement tool? If a salesperson gets on a call or a salesperson sends emails, do they have access to these assets? Are we running it in paid? Do we make a variant of this existing asset with a new hook we're running on trial reels for Instagram? It's another big one where if you are thinking ahead in advance, you have all your files, every good piece of content you have could turn to 3 or 4 variants that you then get to approach just new audiences on trial reels. Huge hack. Format change. This was a great asset that was a video. Let's turn it into a carousel or vice versa. Basically keep your graphic designers humming. Can we post this as an answer on Quora? Can we post it on Reddit? Reddit is a shill fest. You should be able to get people on there that are posting that kind of content, asking for feedback or trying to dig in on it. Can you write it on your website? Put a blog on your website. ChatGPT scrapes these. AI scrapes these. It is becoming increasingly important in a different SEO way to write stuff and put it on your blogs. And then can we create a compilation of this for long form? Can we just have someone, a creator, talk through 10, 15 videos about our products that were on YouTube and make jokes about them inside of YouTube long form? And then to do this, you need to have a system, right? How are you tracking this content that comes in? What is the process with which, okay, who's cross-posting it? How do we validate, which person on our team is validating whether it goes in an email or not, or yes or no, and like checking a box, making sure we made that decision. Do we have compensation in play? So basically, if this was an influencer piece of content and we decide we like it enough, we want to put it on here, we have a boilerplate that says we will pay you an extra $700 to do these 4 things that you're able to send out. Templates for those emails and for putting this stuff in there to make your timing better. This basically allows you to turn whatever assets you are creating without having to spend more and do more into more useful stuff for your company. That is my extremely tactical rant. Sorry, I usually don't get that in the weeds, but I feel like that's a pretty good one to think about. Yeah, I posted Alan up there higher. All right, perfect. I think we hit it all. Or at least we hit all the things I had in the slides there. I am going to send out these slides here at the end of the week. So you can expect to get those like inside email if you are on the list. It's just hyperstudios.us if you are not. And then we don't have another Cut 30 for a while. I am reopening the creative strategy piece here in like a week or 2. So I will email that out if anyone's interested in that. It's just another program that we do. And other than that, I think we'll take another question or 2, and then we are good to go. Thoughts on AI, search engines, Perplexity, ChatGPT, etc. Yeah, it's not going to be a game changer, but if you are a big enough company, like the big companies I work with, we're thinking about it a lot, right? Where you can start getting a decent amount of traffic and recommendations, and you have to play a very different SEO game. It's on YouTube, it's on Reddit, and it's probably worth it. But I would not be thinking of it until you are like already getting serious traffic, like tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of views a month. How do you find jobs as a creative strategist? I've been looking on X. I'd also be following, I think, who is it? Dizzy B Marketing on Instagram posts a lot of social media jobs. Should brands create original content for each channel? It's better to go one good piece of content and then cross-post everywhere. For smaller brands, 100% one good piece and cross everywhere. For bigger brands where you're starting to get into hundreds of thousands to the millions of followers, you should be definitely segmenting it out. But for all smaller brands, do not waste your time. I feel like at the beginning, like make a good asset and cross it. And then for bigger brands, you're growing, you should 100%. You'll basically see naturally where you're like starting to decline, and that's when you begin separating your assets out. Thoughts on AI live shopping? I think live shopping in general is solid. AI live shopping, I don't think has much merit for it. Advice: leveraging a collab with a larger brand to your advantage. Like make sure you get collab posts, make sure you're being shouted out in their newsletter and you get as much exposure as you can. And look, make content about it. The behind the scenes, like tell as much of the story as you can. You're gonna have to like pull as much value as you can out of it. Where do I sign up for the deck? Hyperstudios.us. I think I already have that in the chat somewhere, but that's just my email list with Clayton. He said not to think about multiple social accounts for shows stuff early on. Why is that? Because if you're not, back to the idea, like there's always so much stuff happening. If you're not already good at social media content and you're thinking about a social show or doing 5 accounts, then you're never going to get good. Get good at it first. You start getting traction on one account, and then you are like, we're going to be a social media driven company. Now, maybe think about multiple. But a lot of people will be like, I'm going to do this crazy thing, but they're not actually good. You go launch your social show, and you're not like a savage at social media. It's going to be a waste of resources. Like, get good at the one thing and then expand out. That's why I encourage that for small brands. Now, if you are an expert and you're launching a new brand, and so it's not necessarily small, like it's just new, but you like really know what the fuck you're doing, by all means, do some weird comprehensive strategy. But that's a very rarely who I'm talking to inside these videos. Advertising masterclass too. Yeah, basically the other program we have, the creative strategy program, is like basically a marketing masterclass program that dives into paid and like all these other things. I just haven't had the bandwidth to run it at the same time for a minute. I appreciate everyone tuning in. This was solid. We had a hell of people on here, and thank you so much for tuning in. Email with all the stuff will come out this week, and I appreciate y'all so much for